Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to the show. Welcome to TGL. I'm Grindhead Jim. Let's talk about stuff. Couple things. 3D printing, nothing new on that front, really. I wish I could say I was doing some great experimentation. I am not. More of the same kind of stuff. Still trying to get things to work properly for certain things, but figure stand is still coming along nice and all that fun stuff. Other news that you might find interesting. You guys know, and you've heard me say before, that I have an album or two worth of material that is still in me and in my brain that I started demoing in the 90s. And I'm happy to say that I have an additional guitar player. I have Squiggles is going to be doing guitar as well. But I found a guy who really gets the style already. He writes in that style. He's been looking for something like this. We met over the weekend and for several hours went over the material. He's really locking in on it and learning it and giving me some ideas that I didn't have for it. So we are going to start demoing the material as actual songs in the coming weeks and months. I will keep you up to date on that front as soon as we have more news to share. But we are actually in the thick of it now. We're actually getting work done. So I'm very, very excited about that. And hopefully, if all goes well, we should have a completed album by the end of the year. That's kind of the goal that I'm setting right now. And we'll go from there. It should be really cool stuff. Also, daylight savings time sucks and set me off by a full day. So my Sunday was awful. Nice. Connor says, clocks change and I get me some gym before bedtime. That's awesome, man. It's good to see you, by the way. And Goja Charles, who's also good to see, says, you finally be finishing your Broadway musical? Great. Not far off, honestly. Not far off at all. It's kind of my own personal one-man show, but we're going to be expanding on everything as well. But it is good to see everybody in chat. Some more active than others. I see a bunch. I see Keith Knight in here, Epic Badger, Ted Millich, Jason Garcia, who was first, which might be the first that he's been first. I don't know. Wilhelm Toy and Hobby, pleasure to see you. Sorry I missed yesterday's show. I slept till like 2 in the afternoon. It was horrible. I see Andy and I see my wife. It's good to see you guys. So, otherwise, things are good. For example, Lauren and I spent the afternoon continuing to whittle down the current listings of houses that are in the area. Just continuing to try and get an idea of what's out there, what's staying on the market longer, what isn't, where the prices are at. Look, and I've been looking at stuff to seeing what they're actually selling for, just to keep my ear to the ground, so when it comes time that we can pull the trigger later this year, that we are prepared. So, having a great afternoon, having a great day. It's a great start to the week, and I'm really excited about today's show because later we're going to be joined by Stu, the Universal Toy Collector. It is a pre-recorded discussion. It's a longer one at about an hour and 20 minutes, but I will still be in chat, and I will come back after that discussion to round out the show with any questions and comments you might have before sallying forth into the night. All right, so Knights of Old, I see. Good to see you. Cool. Same thing happened with okay, his Sunday got screwed too. Okay, fair enough, and good to know. So as far as pre-orders go, I only have one to show you. There's nothing else that's really even remotely interesting, and this fits both the interesting slot as well as a topical slot and a slot that some of you really look forward to when I do have it. So here it is. This is a 1954 Gojira Omega Beast Series Godzilla Train Biter, black and white film, 70th anniversary statue. It's 20 by 18 by 15, so it's a big mammer jammer. But it's $900. No, sir. No. But the reason that I bring that up, and the reason that this is the only thing we have for pre-order we're looking at, aside from the fact there's nothing out there for pre-order, is that Godzilla Minus One won Best Special Effects at the Oscars. A Japanese film that was crazy successful worldwide got Best Special Effects. It only took him 70 freaking years to give him a proper Oscar nod. But hey, Godzilla won an Oscar. Fucking finally. So pleased for them. And I've been seeing all the social media posts, and exactly, Academy Award winner Godzilla. Exactly. It's super cool. And I am beside myself happy. So maybe we'll have more than one Godzilla film in the Criterion collection as well, which would be nice. Bill's like, an overpriced statue? Oh my god! Oh, what? Huh? Hey, what's up, Chris? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you as well. So yeah, that's legit the only toy pre-order, any pre-order that I saw that was worth talking about, which is part of why I decided to release this recorded interview tonight, because there wasn't a lot of other parts of the show to give you, aside from our discussion. So I'm going to go ahead and just hop into the subject and kind of, shall we say, bait the hook for you, or thread the needle for this discussion you're about to see. So the title of today's show is how displays affect our perceptions of the concept of home. Okay? So the thing is, like, there are a buttload of houses in our price range that we're looking at. And there's two big things they have to have. One, they have to have a room that is a very big size, strictly for toy display, or an unfinished garage. Okay, for toy display. The other one is either a pool or room for a pool within the price range. Okay, so we're real big on that right now. And we've been looking at different places, and it's making me think in very different ways about what a house would be. Because the houses I was looking at to buy at various points in my life prior to having a toy collection to display, and certainly before the movie collection got as big as it is, that's kind of a thing. Jason Garcia says, if you're not in the flood zone, at least a basement. They don't really have basements up here, man. They really don't. Even if you're not in the flood zone, basements just aren't a thing, typically. There are some that have like sunken like dens and stuff like that, but even that's pretty rare. And I would imagine that a lot of the places that have basements, people just aren't selling. But if it's out there, yes, we would definitely do that. Now, I will say that, like, a large portion of the houses we're looking at in our price range, they do have that garage or that room or both, and they either have a pool or a room within the price range. So it's not like this unicorn that we're chasing. It's something that's there, but it's like, you know, it's I guess it's just the way I'm looking at how a house is formed and what the flow of the house would be, because it's not just about having a toy display, you know, that works, but also does it work with the rest of the house? Are we, you know, you know, what kind of entertaining flow do you want? Do you want to have living space? Because there are some people that their displays overflow into the living space. Scuba Pete's a great example of that, and he just extended his toy display, and now he has multiple areas of toy display that he can use, and it's great. It really works for them. I would not want to be surrounded by my toy collection, especially vintage stuff, in my living room because I have a dog that doesn't know what things are and steps on everything, right? So I can't do that. And, you know, there are people that have like stuff all over the place, and I hope y'all heard Lauren's laugh there. But it's like, I envy that to some degree, and yes, I want to have a more formal display behind me in the office, but like the way I'm thinking about it might be different than other people. So that's kind of what made me want to discuss this with Stu, which is someone who has to maximize the use of the space that he has currently. And what you'll see in this interview is that there's some things he's looking to do maybe in the future. We kind of go back and forth like a ping pong or a volleyball match or tennis or anything where the ball goes back and forth, I suppose. A zim-zam, I don't know. And we talk about what that whole process looks like and how it's like, man, you really have to think about it. And it seems like such a frivolous thing when you really stop to look at, well, there's not enough space for the toys, therefore, blah, blah, blah. But everyone has priorities. So I think that to a collector of things that don't take up as much space or can just fit in a couple curio cabinets or something, you know, because they're smaller things or they display in a different way, you know, or even like, you know, like Goji confines himself to a room just to help control the spending. That doesn't work for me because I just will find more space, which is kind of the problem, right? So that's kind of where that discussion is going. And I want to hear you guys chime in on these things as we go. So back here, I'm going to catch up with you guys. Connor says, we have a pool when it rains heavy. Fair enough. Knights of Old, Texas. We're in Texas. Northern Texas, DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth area. So there's lots of inventory. It's just finding the right thing. Making a Wilhelm suite so I can come visit you. Will require a 6.4 area of rug. Well, one of the things we're making sure of is that we have a viable guest room for people to come in. So, yes, you could absolutely come. And some of the places we're looking at have attached or detached little apartment suites, too. So, for people that want to come visit, like, we're making sure there is space for that. Believe me. Bill Wifta says, do like Super John, turn your whole house into a toy museum.
Yeah, boy!
Billy Wifta with the $1.99 Super Chat says, here's some money. Thank you, buddy. I really appreciate that. Thank you for supporting the show and us. Travels and More with Jason says, hi all. Hello. Welcome to the show. I don't believe I've seen you before. And if you have been here before, welcome back. Boba Hicks says, space is the place. It's correct. Like, if I could just orbit the planet with a toy collection, that'd be easier, right? Roman Cobra says, I just have some shelves, but only a few toys. Fair. Travels and More with Jason goes, I got a whole bungalow. Nice. Wilhelm Toy and Hobby says, I want a large open space I can pile all my toys in and just drive in like Scrooge McDuck. That's an idea. A painful and expensive idea, but it is an idea. Gojatron says, Boba Hicks can fit his entire NFT collection on one thumb drive. That's true. That's true. Hello, Big Long. Nice to see you. This is reference to Boba Hicks. Just buy an NFT house. I'll buy you an NFT house. You haven't caught me live before. Okay, well, welcome. There's nothing wrong with your stuff being made out of cardboard unless you store them in a higher hazard room. You're fine. Zazel's here. He'll tell you you're fine. Welcome, mate. Good to see you. If it wasn't for our effed up jobs, we'd come visiting. I understand that. I totally do. And the thing is, like, if there's a way that it can become finangled, we'll make that work. And y'all can hang out in the spa and in the pool and everything. See, Zazel told you right there. There it is. You're fine. Everything's fine. Jones are in the house says, "Sup, fellas? What's up?" Is that we're talking about toy displays and how they change your perception of home. So, with that in mind, Wilhelm asks if I'm going to the DFW Joe show. All signs point to yes. There's a good possibility I might even become a vendor there, depending on how things go. That is the plan. Oh, did I forget the lazy river? I'm sorry, dear. Did I forget? Oh, sorry. I guess apparently we're having a lazy river. But we actually did see a show last night where they actually made the lazy river part of the pool in such a way that it wasn't like taking over the yard, which I'd be happy for it to take over the yard. I'm just worried about the cost. Dawson on Drugs says, too much for one room. Living room, office, bedroom, garage, bathroom, closet, dining room. Yeah. So that's why I'm taking a 2-car garage and just converting that and going crazy. Wilhelm wants a lazy river above all things at the house. We'll try. It all depends. We're seeing some houses that are really, really good budget-wise. We would be able to go a little bit nuts and have some cool stuff like that. Because for us, this is going to be the forever home, right? So we want to keep the mortgage as low as we can within a certain budget and make sure we have the things we want. I'll max out the budget if we get everything perfect. That's kind of the thing. Well, Andy, here's the thing. If we end up making a lazy river, when we end up making a lazy river, you can come use ours anytime you want. Promise. For real. And yes, it is Zen. I know I'm being all curmudgeon-y for the camera, but I want one too. It'd be fun. It would be great. Chasing Andy's Toys says, same as Goji. Try to keep a limit of the toys to one room. Try. So far, not successful because my other strategy is buy first, worry about where it goes later. That is my strategy as well, as one who's ever been in this room can truly understand. It's for real. It's for real. Get a hard-working river from the mirror universe. That'd be interesting. Like the river just hums hi ho. A lazy river, it doesn't flow? Isn't that just a pond? Technically, yes. But a lazy river, and I know you know this, for those that may not know, a lazy river is like a canal you create off of a pool or just a surrounding perimeter area, and it flows in such a way that you float in it in like an inflatable, or if you're just, floating on your own power, I suppose, just float along lazily like a river. That's why they call it that. And it is something that more and more pool makers are like, yeah, we can do that. But I find out how many freaking pumps they need and how much that electric's going to cost, and it scares me. But you add solar panels, to a property like that where it's like, well, we have surplus of electricity, then I don't care. It is a lot like sorcery, actually, Boba Hicks. It's a lot like sorcery. So, yes, all of these different things. And the thing is, you could even count the pool and the lazy river as like a toy, because that's something we were going to play with, Joe's like, as my fat ass floats away, the stress falls off of me. That's the idea, right? So, we're being super particular, but I've been looking at houses for years, and then she and I have been looking at houses for a little over a year. And we're getting to this point where it's becoming closer and closer. And the toy display really does kind of center that discussion, because we have to have the space for it. Otherwise, what's the point of having it, as far as I'm concerned? And getting rid of the toys is not an option. So, as a result, these are the discussions that we're having. And Steven, I don't know if I would do a moat. It'd be fun, though. That's for sure. If we could make a moat work as the lazy river, like that would be the best. And I know Lauren would be like, yes, because that means we'd have a drawbridge, which would be fun by itself, you see. Be interesting for Amazon time, but it would be interesting. And Daniel Garhunin, nice to see you. Welcome back to the show. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in the stew discussion here. I will be here. I just won't be on camera except in the recording. It'll be a bit meta, okay? But it'll be fun. But I'm going to be right here, right with you. And I love you guys. See you after the interview for the rest of the show. Enjoy. With great pleasure, I am welcoming Stu, the Universal Collector, to the show. We've been wanting to do this for a while as I've been on his show, which was a long time coming in and of itself. But we have a reasoning for the timing of this particular discussion, which will not be solely based on that reason. But I do think it's imperative that we do this when we are doing it. And Stu, again, thank you for being here. And why don't you tell everybody why we chose to have this talk this week?
Well, Jim, we chose to have this talk this week because I think it's 2 weeks tomorrow. I'll be hosting the If They Can Wish 24-hour charity live stream in aid of Give Kids the World, which is a charity that I'm looking to raise money for and awareness for, which is something that I did last year. This year, we're going to do it again. So, and everybody's going to be involved. Like, I've got friends from all around the world from the YouTube community, including your good self, that are going to be taking part at some point over the course of 24 hours. So it's just it's a fantastic cause, fantastic charity. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Good. So for anyone who wants to give me a bunch of crap about how Stu should have been on the show a while ago, I agree, but we wanted to start off with a bang. And we'll get more into the live stream and what that's going to entail and the charity itself later on in the show. For now, there's a lot of things that I could talk to you about. We're friends. We could talk about just about anything. But the thing I want to start off talking to you about is your toy display. And the reason I want to talk to you about your toy display is that it is one of the most consistently visually interesting displays I've seen.
Thank you.
And also, you tend to change it up a fair amount. At least once or twice a year I've seen you'll shuffle things around, and I don't think it's always revolving around getting new things. You appear to have some sort of a display wanderlust. So why don't you walk me through, like, where does that come from? Is it acquisition of things always, or is it that wanderlust we talked about? Kind of walk me through your philosophy on displaying.
So when I first started out collecting, it was a very small collection, and it was predominantly vintage Star Wars, the original Kenner figures. And then 2020 come around. We all know what happened in 2020. I don't need to go into too much detail there. I then jumped onto YouTube, started watching figure reviews, started watching all these fantastic like toy community channels and stuff like that. And then I was like a kid in a toy shop. I was like, I want. So it's like Black Series. It was SH Figure Arts, DC Multiverse. And where we are, I don't have the room to display everything I like. So what I've done is my mainstay is my vintage Star Wars figures and vehicles. They will never change. They will stay where they are. They will always be the forefront of my display. That was what I was born and raised on. So that to me means a hell of a lot. The rest of the stuff, yeah, because I have so much of it, I like to freshen it up every now and again. So, for example, I had like a load of Marvel figures out on display, the 80th anniversary Marvel figures. I've put them back into storage. I've now got Transformers up on display. I've now got G.I. Joe back on display. So it's just a case of, I mean, some of the stuff will stay predominantly in the main room because I've got 3 collection rooms. I'm quite lucky in that respect. I have part of my collection in our bedroom, in our main room. I have the main collection in this room that I'm sitting in now. And the third room is the dining living area, which is predominantly housing the sail barge, the Razor Crest, the USC, is it USC? Ultimate Collection Series Lego Vulcan and other bits and bobs, and the more expensive stuff like the SH Figure Arts figures or the NECA figures or my wife's Dark Crystal figures and Labyrinth figures and stuff like that. They tend to sit and stay where they are. I mean, my wife, if she wants to freshen things up, she's more than welcome. I generally don't touch her side of the collection. I'll get told off for that. So I leave that as is. So, but with the stuff I have, because I've got so much stuff, I like to freshen it up. And not only that, it keeps it interesting for me, because then it gives me something to do. I like chopping and changing it around. And I had a massive change around not so long ago. I think with the last video I did, like I changed it around, and I said I'm not going to change it around for a good long while. Well, believe you me, I'm already starting on thinking, how can I change it? How can I look to improve it? What else can I get into display? Trying to maximize every single bit of them that I have to display as much as I can. You know, and it's fun for me. I enjoy it. It keeps me out of trouble.
So it sounds like maximizing the display is like a hobby within a hobby for you.
Yeah.
And I had a suspicion, and you confirmed that when you said you have a certain amount of toys in storage, you have to rotate to keep everything out.
Yeah.
What percentage of your toys would you say are away from the prying eye?
Everything that I have on display, I can guarantee you, I probably have about as much in storage.
Yeah.
So we got we got one of those beds that raise up, and like my wife's side, she's got all sheets and bed linen and stuff like that. Me, I've just got boxes of toys. My cupboard, which is just behind me here, is just full of toys and boxes. I've got 3 cupboards in here that are just full of toys. I've got boxes full of toys. It's just incredible the amount I've got. And some people would say, well, why have you got that much if you can't display it? Well, I like collecting it, and it's like an addiction, isn't it? You see something, you want it, you buy it, and I'm hoping one day that we will get a place big enough that I can actually display everything. But then what will happen then is I'll grow out of that space as well, no doubt. So, like I say, I just like changing it up, you know.
And that's something I've actually been getting more serious about as time has gone on recently. We are looking at expanding our space here by this time next year, or sooner if we can afford to pay off the lease, but we're looking at that as well. And I was thinking about the realities of that. You know, okay, we know how much square footage we need in the house. We know that we need at least X amount more square footage specifically for toys, and the practicalities of it, you know. So we're going to discuss kind of what we want out of the perfect place to have our toys. So we're going to take bedrooms and bathrooms are off the table as far as like all the basics of a house. Like whatever you want is whatever you need. It doesn't matter. But in a toy space, I think there's a lot of different options that are out there. And I would venture to think that there's a lot of collectors like you and I that really got energized during and after the pandemic that now find ourselves surrounded with stuff we never had to mitigate before. And we're looking to perhaps trade up into a larger space at some point down the line. But what factors are there to that? So in my case, we've been looking at a lot of different types of houses. Single stories, 2 stories, split level entry, all different kinds of layouts because they give you different options. Some of them will have bonus rooms, finished basements, that sort of thing. And what I'm finding the 2 most prevalent possibilities for me are a large 2-car garage or bigger, and then something where you can finish that out. That's the toy space. That's the most likely that's going to happen just because there aren't many basements here in Texas, and I'd like to avoid stairs if I can. Now, if we get a place that has stairs, a lot of them will have like a loft area right as you crest the stairs, a big open bonus room. Right now, for me, that would be great because it's in the house. I don't have to worry about climate fluctuations or running those kinds of services to a garage. It would be a less expensive option for me. But we're animal lovers. We have a dog. We're going to get a couple cats and probably a couple more dogs when we're in a house. I don't care how well behaved your animal is. If they just have free reign of toy shelves, they're at least going to knock stuff down without meaning to. They may never bite anything, but that's a mitigating thing. And if they get riled up and they knock over an expensive thing, that's just not a good situation. So I don't know if there's an option where I could gate that off or if that's just not the right kind of a thing. So those are my 2, what I'm seeing the most of. When you envision getting a larger place, what kind of a space do you think you would need? What have you seen? What kind of problems do you think you're going to have?
So the room that I'm in at the moment is a box room. It's a box room, and so when I said to you earlier about maximizing space, I'll just give you an example. So if I just move out the way, where my DC stuff is there in that cabinet there, I had my Castle Grayskull in there, and I had Snake Mountain on top. Now the thing is, the Castle Grayskull took up that whole unit, so that shelf wasn't there. So to me, that's not maximizing space. So I've taken out and put it somewhere else where I don't have to worry about space, because the height, you've got enough height to put something there. So I've put another shelf in there, which means I can display more. So basically, it's like this here. I don't know if you can't see it, but I've got my ATST walker there, and that's taken up a lot of shelf space. So what I mean, we're in a 2-bedroom place at the moment, and this room was originally a spare bedroom. We've been here coming up 8 years, and for 7 of those years we had 1 or 2 people stay, and that was it. So we just thought, well, it's a waste of a room, really. So we just wanted to display our stuff and use it as like an office type sort of thing. That's what we wanted to do, and that's what we've done. But I guess, look, I've always seen the houses that you guys have in the States, and I've often been quite jealous of the fact that you have these massive basements in some areas. You have these massive open like lounge rooms upstairs, like a loft room or something like that. I would love something like that. I'd be absolutely dangerous if I had something like that.
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of real estate in the UK. And like, for example, one of my favorite shows here stateside is My Lottery Dream Homes, where someone comes into a lot of money and they go shopping for their dream home. And they have the international version of that, which is mainly based in the UK. So I've gotten real familiar with different parts of the UK, a little bit of, or former UK, to be clear. So you've got Britain, you've got, of course, got Ireland, Scotland, and a lot of different areas within all of those countries. And I don't care where you are in any of those areas, everything seems so narrow. They don't have a lot of wide cottages or anything, because I don't know if it was just because there is so much older architecture and so forth. I think that's the difference in the States, is that we're constantly building and tearing down, building and tearing down, building and tearing down when it comes to residential space. Do you think that perhaps the age of the architecture in your residential areas is the problem? Or is it just there's a stylistic difference, or both?
I just think it's a style. I mean, so before we moved here, we were looking at a couple of other places, and one of them was like this cottage, and it backed onto like the river, like the local river. It was a beautiful little cottage, but I mean, that's exactly what it was. It was little. I walked in the front room. So you go through the front door, and there's the front room there. And I was like, where am I going to put the TV? I mean, we've got a big like flat screen like TV. There would have been nowhere to put it. So I think with this country, a lot of the older places that were built back in the 60s and 70s, they're quite big. They're quite spacious. Some of the places they built. Here we're lucky. This is quite a big place. I mean, it just looks small because it's cram packed with furniture and toys and all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
But a lot of the new modern builds that they're building now, they just seem to be smaller. I mean, we're lucky we've got cupboard space, whereas a lot of the new builds, they're not having cupboard space. What I would like is a loft, and have loft space, so I can put the empty boxes up, so I can put tubs up there with figures and stuff like that I'm not going to get to display. Because at the moment, like I say, I've got these cupboards here, these spaces here, but underneath that there's a cupboard, as you can see. It's just full of like toys and boxes and stuff like that. I don't want to have that. I want to be able to display more, but I can't because I don't have that space. So that's the issue. So, I think I've said it loads of times before. Space is a collector's worst enemy, because none of us ever have enough space, and it's always fighting space, isn't it? And you get more space, and what you do with it, you put more stuff in it, then you buy more stuff. So you're never ever going to actually get to fully display everything anyway, unless you live in a mansion, which is never going to happen.
And I suppose that's true. but I guess it, like I've kind of like we talked a little bit about this when I was on your show, and for those of you who haven't seen it, go check that out. We had a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
But there was this idea that I'm never going to stop collecting, but the cadence and volume at which I'm collecting is starting to slow down for a lot of different reasons. But the main reason really is I really have the vast majority of what I could want going into a collection. Now, something will come along, some bug will bite in the next year. I guarantee it will happen. Okay. And there's also the factor of when you store toys, sometimes you forget what you have. So this vision I have of, okay, I get this wide open space and I can get as many of these kinds of shelves, build as many shelves as we want, do it up and however we want. I want to create more dioramas, less here's this toy, here's this toy, here's this toy, which I think most people would want to do. And there's some stuff that's definitely coming into collection where it's like I have to rethink things in terms of height, width, all this crap. So you think you have an idea of what all of it would look like displayed, but if you've never done that, you can't possibly know. And I definitely fall into that because I myself have a closet full of bins that have never been opened in this space. So it's blowing my mind to make sure it's like, okay, do I have enough square footage? Do I have enough shelving, this and that? Because when I came in here first, I knew how much wall space I had. I knew how much ceiling height I had. And we had months in advance to figure that out. So I purpose bought shelving for this space. Knowing it's expandable, knowing it's customizable, so when we get to the next place, that's a good starting point. I can get more of it. It's not expensive, whatever. And I know what I have in my head, but the question is, will it translate? Because even moving into this room, I ran into problems where I had all this set up purpose-built, and where they said this is a 15-foot wall, it isn't. It's short by about 6 or 7 inches.
Wow.
Which mainly is because of trim that's along the floor, which on both sides. Plus, I think they just mismeasured for whatever reason. Everything else worked out fine, but I had to angle this shelf here, which you can't see on camera, but if you've seen the show before, I have one that's over here, which ruined a lot of my expansion ideas. I thought if we get it straight across and that works the way it's supposed to, I could probably get away with another shelf here or something, but I don't have that opportunity. So it makes me very wary of the spaces that may come to pass. So let's say you do find, just for the sake of argument, something very similar to what you have now, except you have an extra bedroom or two. And if you were to have that much space, which is just, you could say, I dedicate, this room or these 2 rooms just to toys. How do you cut them up? Do you go, I'm going to put all my Star Wars on this side of the room, all my G.I. Joe on this side of the room, and then the other room's got more of a mishmash? Or do you continue to do the kinds of things you're doing now where everything's kind of all over the place? Because I like both approaches. What's your preference?
My preference would be if we did have it, look, my dream place, my dream scenario would be to have a 4-bedroom place. 4-bedroom place. So it'd be our main room. There'd be nothing in there. We'd have a spare room for guests, so there'd be nothing in there as far as collection is concerned. And we'd have 2 fairly decent sized rooms. What I'd like to do is, my preference would be, is to have a room totally dedicated to Star Wars, because that's what I have the most of. So I can have all my vintage, my TVC, my Black Series, all my ships and everything like that in one place. Even the Lego. And then I'd have another room which would just literally be dedicated to everything else bar Star Wars. I mean, I think it's hard to tell I think DC Multiverse and Batman stuff is probably my next biggest thing after Star Wars, then G.I. Joe, and then my Motu collection. I mean, that's coming along, so I'm getting a lot of Motu. Excuse me. I would like more Transformers, because some of the Transformers stuff I think is absolutely fantastic, and I think those would be the lines that I would concentrate on. I know there's Mask, but I wasn't kind of into that as a kid too much. That was more my friend. I mean, I know Georgie's got a Hurricane because that was the toy she had as a kid. But then we've got Georgie's stuff to take into consideration as well. She's got her Lego, she's got her her Dark Crystal figures, her what else? Muppets. I mean, she likes all that sort of stuff. So she's got a load of stuff as well. So obviously that would be needed to take into consideration as well, because it's not just my place; it'd be hers as well. So
Right. But that brings up what I would feel is a semi-obvious question. Given you would have more space, because just by virtue of having a 4-bedroom place to begin with, the living spaces tend to reflect that, and they're a bit bigger. So at that point, do you think Georgie would want to display her stuff separately elsewhere, or would she want to integrate into that 4th room with you? Have you guys talked about that at all? Not to put you on the spot.
Well,
or
no, we
anything.
haven't. We haven't. I mean, again, you know, are we going to have somewhere where we're just going to solely be strict and stick with the 2 collection rooms, or are we going to venture out like we have at the moment into the living area, where we have a lot of our, you know, more I'd say expensive stuff, because, you know, Hot Toys are expensive, Sideshow's expensive, SH Big Watts are expensive. You know, the bits that Georgie collects, you know, they can be quite expensive. So do we keep that kind of stuff separate, or do we, you know, just put it in one room? I mean, you see, it's nice to sit and think about it, but I think, you know, this just happened all by accident. Like I say, I hadn't planned on having anything like this. It was just going to be vintage Star Wars. But like I say, 2020 kicked in, and I just went, hell for Mary. Do you know what I mean? I just went,
yes, I do.
And some people, yeah. And some people go, well, I don't know. You know, like I've said, there's no right way of collecting. There's no wrong way of collecting. And for me to display it all, I definitely need a bigger place. But at the moment, I have to make do with what we have. And I mean, look, listen, I love living here. I think this is a great place. It's our home. It's what we've made it. That's the important thing. So for me, changing it up every now and again, maybe once or twice a year, yeah, I'm quite happy to do that at this moment in time. But you know, one day we will get a place which is big enough, and hopefully we can sort something out. But like we said before, it doesn't matter how big the space is, you're always going to fill that space and then run out of space again. So what do? Do you stop collecting? Do you whittle it right down? Do you move stuff on? I don't know. It's, you know, everyone's different. I mean, they'll have their own different things.
Yeah, I think it definitely depends upon the person. I know a lot of people that are in a similar spot to me, where they've kind of not hit a wall, but they've hit like it's kind of like Star Trek the motion picture, when Spock hits the afterburner and he's got X amount of time, he's burning real hard, then the burner goes off, and as soon as the momentum kicks in, he kicks the jet off, and then he slowly starts to crawl short. That's the closest thing I can think of, because you start off, bam, and then it starts to eventually slow down. It's like, oh, now you're just free floating, and you feel good. Like, all right, well, now what do I do? A lot of my friends are selling off stuff left and right, and I'm not in that space. I there's nothing I can think of that I have, at least in bulk, that I'd be willing to part with. So and plus I like to solve problems. I like a good puzzle. I'm going to make it work. We have this opportunity with buying a forever home that's going to help us deal with all these things. And like, one of the problems to solve is similar to what you have, in as much as I work remotely. I probably always will at this point. The industries have latched onto it, and the opportunities are there. They know that they can save money and I can make more money, and that's what I'm going to do. So I need a dedicated office outside of what a toy room would be. And sure, I could still do live streams from there, but I want something that's a little bit more polished, a little bit more professional looking, and it's just a workspace. So that when I go to my toy room, that's all I'm thinking about at any given time. It's in this room, it's too easy for me to turn my back on the toys and not be immersed in them and enjoying them as much as I should.
Have you got no toys in front of you then, Jim?
I've got a couple. I've got some Matchbox and Hot Wheels stuff right here. I've got a miniature land speeder that a friend sent. I've got some rando little stuff here in front of me. But again, I've got 4 monitors in front of me and all kinds of other hardware I actually use. So space on this desk is at a premium. So yeah, I've got a couple things, but it's never... That's not the priority. And for as much real estate I have desk-wise, I should have more toys here. I agree. But I don't. So in a proper office, so to speak, I would hope to have more of a wood-style cabinet with real nice warm lighting, and the more expensive stuff in there, whether it be the Mezcos and what have you. More personal things. Like I only have like 2 Migos, 4 Migos. Almost all of them were gifts from somebody, and I would love to kind of display them together, a special place where they're not cramped, and other types of like really personal kind of collectibles and statuettes, things that would also not necessarily fit in with a traditional toy display. So that, for lack of a better term, a classier display. So something that is more at home in a home office than, say, Snake Mountain, which, depending on how you light it, a Snake Mountain could look great in an office. I'm not saying you can't.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of thinking like how you separate that, how you approach the other thing. But I think that the collecting and the acquisition, for me, has been the hobby for a while. And now I'm starting to get to this place where the hobby is now becoming the management and the display of that collection.
Yeah.
While yes, new things will always come in, there's a line I think that I'm drawing where it's like, I need to appreciate this more. Opening a closet door and seeing containers full of toys, it's nice that they're there, but I know I can be treating them with more respect. And I think that your solution where you do the rotation and try to keep things fresh is perhaps it's your way of doing that. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, there's things that I won't be able to display, and that's I've got like a 2.5 tubs of carded vintage collection figures and TVC figures, and so I've got nowhere to put those at the moment. I watch people like Nick from Only One Kenobi. I don't know if you know Only One Kenobi.
Mm-hmm.
His carded collection room is absolutely fantastic, and I've been thinking along the way at some point in doing what he's done and blocking the window out, because obviously this is a toy room. I don't let too much light in here, so I'll have the blind down a lot of the time. And so I'm debating, do I block that out? But then again, what do I put on there? Because I can't put shelving there because it's going to be too heavy, so it's not going to be strong enough to hold the shelving. So I don't know. It's just, do I move stuff on? I mean, I've already thought about moving some Lego on. I've already thought about moving the Ultimate Collection Series Falcon on, because that takes up a lot of space. I've got all my Lego, the majority of my Lego has now been dismantled, put into bags with the build plans and everything, and then the instructions in there. I've not kept any of the boxes. The only boxes I've kept for the Lego is the Ultimate Collection Series boxes that we have. Other than that, all the other boxes I've broken up because I don't have the room to store them. See, again, they take up space.
Yeah.
So
and again, that's something else. People were like, "Man, you bought that Grayskull in September of 21. Why haven't you opened it?" I'm like, "Well, because now I have 2 things of the same volume to store." And until these shelves are in the condition they're supposed to be in, to have those kind of moments, I can't, from a space standpoint, afford to do that. Which, of course, if I open my Castle Grayskull and something's broken, I'll be right pissed off, But that's that's the gamble one takes, I suppose. But I am keeping with Motu specifically. I've kept every box. Now, if I have doubles of something, I keep the best box. I only keep 1 box, and it is something where possibly along where the garage doors are, building a false wall of sorts.
Okay,
with some kind of pegboard system or something, so I can create a box wall. So it'll be something where you kind of are like clamping them into place in some system. I haven't figured out how that's going to work yet, but I feel like that would be an interesting thing to explore. If I could figure out a way to do it to where you could walk around it and see the fronts and the backs of the boxes, I don't have any fucking clue how you do that. But beyond
it would look good.
Yeah, but how does one accomplish that? So then the question is, okay, do I run? I have concepts in my head, but I'm probably going to have to bring a contractor in and be like, dude, here's what I'm trying to achieve. Is there anything we could build that would do that? But I think that's what's fun about display. That's what's fun about the idea of moving forward. I mean, I know that this is something that's a bit further down the road for you. Mine's a bit closer for me, but whether it's, you know, because even 6 months ago it was like pipe dream, but as we've gotten even 6 months closer, it's like, okay, we kind of know the numbers we're dealing with. We're seeing the market become something that's doable. Well, you really got to start thinking about what you need, because the last thing I want to happen is to get the right house that has everything we need and then walk into a toy space and go, fuck, there's not enough space in here. Or it's the wrong floor, or it's the wall's not going to be conducive to, you know, putting a shelf into it or whatever. So I'm being super meticulous with it. And my wife keeps reminding me of all the things that she thinks I'll need. Meanwhile, she's not advocating hard for her Barbie collection, which is getting bigger every month. And I know she has display plans and stuff, but she doesn't want to have this much. She knows what she wants, and when she's got there, she's going to be happy. Or so she says. We'll see how deluded she is, you know. But but I have to keep that in the back of my mind as well, so she can have all of her stuff in a way that's feasible. So it's fun, but I also watch a lot of house hunting and renovation programs. This is fun for me, but also as someone who's going to be buying a home, it gives me an idea of what to look for. And I see all these people, and almost none of them have any of the types of hobbies that we share. And they're looking at things in a completely different way. So you hear people talk about, we don't have any storage. And then storage that they get from the renovations are just like under the bench, and then these built-in wall things, you don't see anything. And that's anathema to us. We want to see everything. We want to be able to, look, behold my stuff, you know, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
You know, so do you foresee a similar balance needing to be stricken, even in a larger place where you have to
you got to have a balance. You've got to have a balance, because it can get out of control real quick. You know, like you said, when you use that Spock analogy, I'm absolutely spot on. That was like that with me. I, you know, got into collecting in a big way, and I just put the thrusters on, and I was just like zooming, getting everything that I could, getting twos of everything, keep one on the card, keep one on the, you know, open one up and stuff like that. That has slowed down a hell of a lot, I've got to say. This last, I would say, probably year and a half, I guess it slowed down a lot. You know, do I need two of everything? And it's starting to dawn on me now that I probably never will have that space to display two figures. I mean, like Black Series, I've cut right back on my Black Series. I used to collect the red and black boxes. Then I used to collect the newer version boxes. Now I'm just going to cut right back on those. I'm just going to collect the anniversary ones, and get two of those. Keep one on the card and keep one in front. Why? Because I like the way that displays. I like the way it looks. So I've done that with the Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars, and Jedi card backs. But for the rest of them, no, I won't get those. There's only going to be so many more TVC figures that I'm going to get now. Whereas before I used to collect every one. I can't remember the last wave I've got, but what I want to predominantly do is carry on and get the original Kenner 96, but in the TVC version, the modern day version ones. So because I've got my Star Wars original Kenner here displayed a certain way, and I want to mirror that exactly like for like with the TVC modern day version figures. At the moment, I can't do that because TVC aren't producing the 96 like we'd want them to. So, you know, the other way around that is, right, I will get the best modern day interpretation of that figure and put that in that space until TVC do eventually decide to do it, if they do. But yeah, again, it can get out of control, and I don't want it to get out of control because, you know, I've got to think about Georgie as well, and I know she's very supportive and she loves it, but this is her home as well, and I don't want it to be cluttered with boxes. And at the moment, that's exactly what it is. You know, I've got tubs down here. We've got a new kitchen suite underneath the kitchen seats and stuff like that, the benches and stuff. We've got tubs of figures and Lego. You know, in the front room, I've got my Razor Crest one side with the Princess Leia display and everything one side, and then behind the sofa I've got the sail barge and all that sort of stuff. And down that little aisle, it's just full of boxes. There's boxes of figures there that I've not even opened that arrived in the post from last year. And then there's just other stuff there as well that we you know, so I know that I deep down need to sort of like get a better grip on it and make this place a livable place and not have to worry about tripping up over boxes and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not moaning. I'm not moaning in any way, because I can count myself very lucky that I have someone that's also into collecting as well, and she shares that passion, and she doesn't mind it being in like multiple rooms. Whereas I know some people, they are just restricted to one room, and oh man, that's got to be hard. That's got to be hard work. But
and
you know, you got to respect that, because that's how they want it. You know.
Exactly, and I think different families are going to look at that differently as well. You look at like a Scuba Pete, for example, you know, whereas Scuba Pete has his collection just integrated into one gigantic room, which he of course has been expanding into other places just because they have no choice. But you talk about the level of support and patience that Leslie's got to have with that, and to kind of grow into it. It's rare. You're not everyone's going to be a Lauren, a Georgie, or you know, a Leslie, as the case may be. It's just not going to happen. I think there's a lot of collectors out there where their collections are tolerated, kind of pat on the head, you know, how cute you are, you know, just like, but it's the same kind of thing for guys that are huge, like gearheads, that want a 4-car garage and 72 vehicles and a frickin' boat and this and that. I think no matter what hobby you have, having a supportive partner is a huge part of that. And I think that the difference with some of those more outdoorsy hobbies is that they do stay out of doors. No one's parking a pickup truck in the living room. At least they shouldn't be. So I think that with collectibles, whether we're talking about toys or physical media for music or film or musical instruments for that matter, I think those you tend to combat space a lot more. So I think that's why, and I think that again we talk about there's a lot more people that have had to really live in their space more than they had to 5 years ago, that are now because of COVID and everything else now with labor's changing and to the point where more people are working remotely than ever, they're having to change the way they live just because they're living out of their homes, and the collections come into play and all these things. So I think that the way we look at our homes is going to change with it too. And I think that there's such a large group of people now that are in those positions that we find ourselves in today. So that's why I want to talk about that. And it's given me more to think about. I hope it's given you something to think about. And folks at home, I hope that it's given you something to think about, because if we're serious and we care about these things we collect, we care about the people that are around and they care about us, look at the different ways and creative things that you can do. Maybe asking a question of, how do we do this? And, you know, because we have stuff all over the house. I'd like to think that we don't, but we kind of do. It's not to the level that you have, which I think is beautiful. By the way, I love the way you and Georgie have everything set up, because everywhere in the house, there's something you can point at and smile. And while we have that, it's not the same level. And I bet that there's probably more partners out there that would probably be willing to accept that if it was done tastefully. And so those of you that are struggling with space, maybe that's your next step. And maybe not getting a bigger space like Stu and I are talking about doing. So I did mention ever so briefly 2 concepts with balance, and then also I talked about musical instruments as being a storage space as well. You and Georgie both are big music people. And as far as I know, you're primarily vocalists. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Do you guys play any instruments at all?
No. Listen, I've always said that people that can read music, play a musical instrument, it's like talking a totally different language. I just think it is so fantastically talented. Anybody who can do that. I was never musically inclined as a kid. I never took any interest in music whatsoever. And it was only through sheer fluke that I went to a karaoke competition down my local pub many years ago. I think it must have been about 97. And we didn't even go down there for karaoke. We just went down and had a lunch, or dinner, something like that. And I just said, I'll enter this competition. And I ended up winning the heat. And I thought, oh, wow, okay, that was pretty cool. And I sung The Wonder of You by Elvis Presley. And so I thought, yeah, quality. So I got invited back to the final. And different gravy. These guys were absolutely phenomenal. And I think it must have been about 10th in a list of 12. So by that time, I'd had a few drinks. And I just sounded like a drunk pub singer. And I felt pretty damn ashamed of myself, because these guys were mint. They were absolutely fantastic. And I was like, wow. And I kind of felt disappointed, because I let myself down. So I then phoned up this singing teacher. She's in the local ads and stuff like that. So I phoned her up, and she wasn't available. So I spoke to her husband, and I was chatting to him, and he was asking me all these details. He said, phone back Monday. So okay. So I did. I phoned back Monday, got a singing lesson booked in for this coming Saturday sort of thing. And I was like, yeah, look forward to it. Brilliant. Woke up Saturday morning thinking, what the hell am I doing? What am I doing? And I was saying that all the way while I was getting myself ready and driving to her house and stuff like that. Knocked on this door, got chatting to her, did singing. And for those of you, singing is quite a personal thing, isn't it? It can be quite a personal thing. It's, you're showing a different side to you, sort of thing. And but yeah, I got chatting, and I found out that her husband was actually Alvin Stardust, the glam rock singer from back in the 70s and 80s.
Wow.
And I was like, holy. And Alvin Stardust walks in, and he's like, oh, hi. And I was like, wow. And I've got to say, what an absolutely lovely guy. He gave me so much advice. He gave me so much confidence. And Julie was the same as well, my singing tutor. And then they did sort of stage shows and stuff like that, and musicals. So that's how I got involved in that. And then I think it was 2012. I've been doing musicals for near on just over 10 years. And that's when I bumped into Georgie. We did a show called Rent, and we became friends, and it's just gone from there. And that was 12 years ago this year. So yeah, fantastic. And Georgie has the voice of an angel. She could not sing for weeks and weeks and weeks. We'd go down the pub, and she'd just belt this song out, and as if she'd only sung it yesterday, sort of thing. Whereas me, I get quite nervous and I think, oh God, so then I have to have a little swig of alcohol. Georgie, just an absolute tremendous voice. And it's not one of these, what I would say was like an overpowering voice. It's just spot on. It's powerful enough to be able to hear it and to be able to appreciate the tones and the notes and everything like that. She's just absolute quality. She wasn't very good at remembering her lines, though, bless her. She preferred the singing and dancing to remembering lines. Me, I personally preferred the lines to dancing. I hated dancing, but
yeah. Don't get me started on that. I have a theory about dancing when it comes to drummers. All right, as a drummer, I create rhythm while sitting and moving my limbs around. Right.
That is the best way to dance, man. That is the best way to dance.
But that's the thing. Dancing, the movement tends to be based in your hips, which I am accustomed to keeping still.
Yeah.
So it's like the reverse. It's like looking at the X-ray of something, and then when I try to reverse that, I can't do it, and I end up looking like I've just stroked out on the dance floor. So I stopped trying, and I decided I was just going to get better at being a drummer and whatnot. And that's something else that we are struggling with, though, is where to put the drum kit and rehearsal space and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, because they're not small, are they?
No, not mine, that's for sure. To put it this way, the area rug that we use for our living room will graduate to being the drum rug when time comes. It's, I would carry a 5x8, so probably 1.8 meter by maybe 2.5 meter rug on the road back in the day, and this one's bigger. And the idea is just to have a larger space and whatnot. And plus, if you have any other amplifiers in the room, this and that. But we're looking towards being a kind of a cozy recording space. I don't have any desire to play live again, be on the road. I'm too old for that trash. But I want to be in a space where when I want to play, I can play. If I want to stream playing, I can do that. If I want to get together with some buddies, whether local or out of town, we want to jam out, make a couple songs just for fun, we can do that. So that presents all kinds of other stuff. Do you guys have, or do you have a need for a space where you can do vocals with some sound dampening in the house?
This is what this area was going to be. So when we first got the laptop and everything like that, and the camera and stuff, we had a mic, and the mic was specifically for vocals and singing. So, but then because we didn't really use it as that, and I started using it more as like a podcast kind of microphone, we found that the tone wasn't right enough to do the podcast. So we've got ourselves another mic, but we do have the other one. But no, myself and Georgie, I mean, we haven't sung for a long time. I mean, it used to be every weekend we used to go down, or every other weekend we used to go down, meet up with friends, and just have a sing song down at the karaoke and stuff like that and whatnot. But we've not done that for a long time. Saying that, I did record that song for a certain live stream the other month, just after Christmas. So
well, that actually was what I was going to segue into. So you've caught
okay.
me now. So why don't we talk
sorry.
about? So let's talk about that. Talk about not just what you did last year, what we're looking to do this year, why you decided to do the song this year, and that process. Tell me all about that.
You know what? I don't know. I just thought, well, because I did it last year, how can I do something different this year and promote it? And I've always loved that song, the Elvis song, If I Can Dream. And I just thought to myself, I was in the shower and I just started singing, and I was just coming out with these different lyrics to how could that fit what I'm going to be doing as regards to the Give Kids the World and the children and stuff like that. So I just changed the If They Can Dream, If I Can Dream to If They Can Wish, because basically it's like a wish foundation, isn't it? And the wishing sort of thing aspect of it. And then I just changed some of the different lyrics and stuff like that, and that it just went from there. And so, and the funny thing is now is if I sing that song, it's not the Elvis version I sing, and it's the version that I sing for the kids. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to sing I've done that now. I want to like move on from that. But yeah. And the studio, the recording studio, was a local recording studio, and they were very supportive. They were brilliant. I mean, I went down twice. So I went down one weekday, and I went through the song, explained what I was going to be doing and why. And I just said, look, I've got the backing track, and they went through it. So I went through it a couple of times, and I like I said to them, I hadn't sung for like a long time, so I was as nervous as hell. And when you're nervous when you're singing, it doesn't help because your throat kind of like restricts and stuff like that, and you can't get the so then I was kind of like pushing it too much. And and I worry about these things because if I do something, I want to do it good to the best of my ability. And so I did a recording, they recorded it, and I thought, that doesn't sound too bad, then a couple of days later I listened to it again. I thought, no, I'm not happy with that. So I called them back up again, got in touch, and Georgie come down with me this time and stuff like that, and she filmed bits and bobs and stuff. And it was a case of me trying too hard and trying to force the song instead of letting it come naturally. Now, for crying out loud, look, I'm not Elvis Presley. I'm never going to sound like Elvis Presley, but I wanted to do it in the kind of style that he did it in, because he's got those rich tones, and I think that song is pretty cool. I'm loving that song. So and in the end we got a final draft that I was really happy with, and a final cut that I was happy with. So, and I don't know why I did it. I just thought, how can I make it different promoting it this time around? And why would I call it If They Can Wish? Well, here's the reason why, because of this song sort of thing. So that's where that come from, really.
Okay. So why this charity?
Why? Because first and foremost, I'm a parent. I've got two kids. I've got one will be 30 this year, one 25 this year. And barring a few cuts and bruises, broken limbs here and there over the years, I have been very, very lucky that those two kids of mine haven't had any serious illnesses or critical illnesses. And there are people that aren't lucky enough in the world that can say that these parents that have their critically ill children and stuff. And as you know, Jim, I do a series called My Collecting Life, and one of the first questions I ask is, what were your childhood memories, or what toy lines did you collect as a kid, and what memories do you have of those? And we take that for granted because we can sit here and we can reminisce about our childhood, the happy times, the sitting and watching the cartoons on a Saturday morning or after school, going into a toy store, looking at the figures. We take that for granted. There are a lot of kids that won't ever get to be asked that question. Do you know what I mean? And I just thought, well, look, for me, it just makes perfect sense. It's a fantastic charity. It's to do with children, you know, critically ill children and stuff like that. And I just want to show my support in some way, whether it's raising as much money as I possibly can, or by raising awareness, which also is a very important thing, the awareness of the charity as well. Because when I did it last year, there's a lot of people that didn't realize that charity existed. Now they do, and they've jumped back on board this year to take part in the live stream, which I think is just absolutely fantastic.
So you've created kind of the groundswell of awareness. You've done it once, proven it can be done. You're definitely pushing it really hard, and I love that. Do you find that that's born of momentum, of a desire to do more? Where did the drive first come from, and how has it steamrolled into this year?
Well, initially, the whole idea was around Christmas 2022, and so the March of 2023 would have been my first full year on YouTube. So I thought, well, look, I want to do something to celebrate that milestone. You know, it's a small milestone for me, but what can I do? And then I thought, well, look, why, instead of making it about me, why don't I do something meaningful, something constructive, something that can help others? And that's why I come up with Give Kids the World and the 24-hour charity live stream.
Which this will be, of course, on the 23rd and 24th of March. Which
that's correct, yeah.
This will be airing the Monday after we record. This will be less than 2 weeks before we do this. Obviously, it's going to be a 24-hour in total stream. My understanding is that you're going to be present for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which I've done them.
Yeah.
They're not a lot of fun, but I've done them. And I will be there as much as I possibly can, in addition to my block as well. Tell us a bit about the lineup. Tell us a bit about what we can expect, because people are going to be tuning in at very different times of the day. But you have staggered that schedule in very interesting ways. Tell us more about that. What can people expect?
Well, the schedule, I mean, it's a 24-hour charity live stream, and the reason I've done 24 hours is because there are so many friends that I have around the world in different countries that, you know, look, listen, I didn't know that it was going to take off like it did last year. I mean, I put the feelers out and said, you know, do you want to be part of this live stream? I had 40 plus people say, yeah, I would love to. They weren't too sure what it was going to be about, how it was going to pan out and stuff like that. And to my surprise, as I think as much as everybody else's, it was quite successful. So it was hard work last year, and I was umming and ahhing, do I do it again this year? And I thought, well, heck it, why not? So the schedule is based over 24 hours, obviously. Starts at 3 o'clock on the Saturday, rolls right through till Sunday, finishing at 3 o'clock. So it's all broken up into 2-hour time slots. And I sent out feelers towards the end of October, beginning of November last year. And within 24 hours, 60 plus people got back to me and said, yes, I want to be part of it. I want to do it. Last year was fantastic. So as my channel's kind of grown a little bit since last year, I have more people that I can ask and stuff like that, like yourself and what have you. And people like Jim Largo, they're going to be involved as well. So, which is brilliant. So you guys are going to be on for like roughly 2 hours. I mean, some of the slots are fully booked up. I can get 10 people on my StreamYard at the most. About 3 or 4 of those are fully booked. Others I've got about 8, 7. You know, there's, you know, towards the early hours of Sunday morning, there's like, you've got the Australian lads. And the good thing is as well is no matter what time of the day you sit and watch, there's always going to be someone there, someone different from around the world. And I've had to take in the time zones, obviously, the different time zones around the world, because obviously Australia, they're 11 hours plus in front of us. It's the same with New Zealand, same with Japan. And then you head back over towards USA, Canada. They're like behind us time-wise. So I've had to sort of work it out and, you know, get people sort of like matched up and stuff like that. And, oh, excuse me. I do apologize.
Oh, no worries.
Oh. Yeah, so there's a lot of organization going into it. And because it's 24 hours, it then gives people a chance around the world to take part at any time. They, you know, they don't have to get up at silly o'clock in the morning. You know, like the Australians, if it was like, say, 8 o'clock in the evening UK time, they'd have to be up really early on the Sunday morning to take part. They don't have to do that. They can do that Sunday evening their time, which my voice, I do apologize. Wow. Yeah, so yeah,
Well, I have you talking
It's,
a lot, you know. I'm having you sell the wares, man. So
yeah,
one of the things I love about a long form stream like this, especially one that's driven by charity, for those that haven't experienced one in the past, one of the coolest things about it is that you know what's happening in this 24-hour block. And
yeah,
if you have errands to run that day, and also because we're giving you all this notice, maybe you want to just make a day of it, just for the entertainment vibe. Because here's the thing. Obviously, we're trying to drive donations for money. That's all there is to it, right? We want to do this for the kids. But part of the ways you make that happen is viewership and engagement in chat. So, for example, you could start from the very moment that the stream begins and last it, the better part of a workday, or check in throughout the course of what your workday would be. Kind of checking it out, like check in with breakfast, check in with lunch, check in at dinner, maybe a nightcap. Tell your friends about it. Tell your family about it. It doesn't matter if they're into toys. Everyone wants to help children. And we're going to do our best to have an engaging conversation. And I presume we'll have the schedule somewhat available for folks to see what's upcoming, or we'll be telling them during the show.
I mean, that will get put up like either the morning of the live stream. So that'll be put up probably Saturday morning. That'll be on Instagram, my Instagram page, and it'll also be on Facebook as well.
Perfect. So I think for me, the idea is, think of this as the best way a person can contribute, aside from the obvious, is being there, engaging, helping us to engage others, and be more entertaining and welcoming for folks to stay and view this as a free piece of entertainment. We're basically putting on our own 24-hour news cycle, but we're making all the stuff up as we go. And we're going to have some fun with it. We're going to help out some kids. There might be some giveaways involved. You never know. Never know what's going to happen. But that's kind of the fun of it. And it's live. There's no takesies, backsies. All right? There's none of that. And
No.
It's very different from a format of a show like what I do on my Monday show, which has a pretty strict format. There's not usually a ton of surprises. It's not like, look under your chair. You're like, none of that's going on. But when you're doing a 24-hour block of entertainment that comes once a year, and we're incentivizing that with that kind of charity kind of drive, you never know what's going to take place. It's something you're going to have a lot of fun watching. So even though we're putting a lot of planning into the show, you might benefit from, no pun intended, from planning to watch in whatever way you can. And for when you can't watch, try to get others involved, because that's the more eyes we have on us, the higher we go up in the algorithm, the more people will come organically, and maybe we'll smash that goal and help out some kids. So I do want people to think about the fact that we're giving you a free block of entertainment that you're just not going to get anywhere else for at least a year. So take advantage of that. If you
Absolutely.
can afford to give, please do. If you can't, that's fine. Stick around. Make us laugh. We challenge you to engage with each other and share stories, and that's how the show's going to evolve.
No, absolutely. And look, listen, it's something that I'm hosting, but I've got to say, it's not just me doing this. Georgie, bless her, she's going to be up for the 24 hours as well. She's going to be in the back. She's going to be like checking on all the donations, taking information from people if they win prizes and stuff like that. She's going to be heavily involved as well, like she was last year. You guys, you're taking part. You're giving up your time to be a part of this. So it's a team effort. And I think it's great that the community is actually coming together for this charity and this live stream and stuff like that. And I take my hat off to you, and I just want to say massive thank you to each and everybody who's expressed an interest, saying they're going to take part, helping out in any way they can, whether it's like donating their time to be part of the live stream, whether it's them donating gifts as like gift box giveaways and stuff like that for the prizes and stuff. There's just been so much positivity about it, and I know people are starting to get excited about it. I mean, there was ZSR one earlier this like tonight, and they were talking about it, saying they're going to be involved. They're looking forward to it as well. So yeah, it's everybody's involved, and that's why I wanted it to do over 24 hours, because it gives the chance for everybody to be involved. The guys in Japan, the guys in Australia, New Zealand, the guys in the States, they can jump on, be a part of it, and just let's just raise as much money and awareness as we possibly can for a worthwhile cause.
And that's all one can hope for when we're doing that. And it's a selfless thing to do, but they can be a lot of fun. They really can.
Oh, absolutely,
And there's an adrenaline that comes from seeing the generosity and joy from others. So I'm really looking forward to it. So obviously that's going to be great. Again, that's going to be the 23rd and 24th of March. Keep your eyes on Stu's Instagram and Facebook for those updates and those schedules, and then join us for 24 hours of a great time. So putting a pin in that, obviously we've had a nice hour conversation here about some stuff you probably didn't think I was going to get you to talk about singing.
No, it's all good, man. I enjoyed it. I would just say this one thing. It's a one-off event. It's not going to be one of those ones that are like last year. I didn't realize that YouTube only allowed 12 hours to be loaded up onto their platform.
Right.
So I thought, well, don't worry about that. I've got StreamYard that's recorded and saved it. StreamYard only records and saves 10 hours worth. So in total, I lost 14 hours worth. I know that this year, but I'm still going to go ahead and do it the full 12 hours from start to finish. So one night only. The only time you're going to get to see it is on that 23rd and 24th, because I won't be putting anything up after that.
There you go. So, and that brings into that element of being live, a little bit of danger. Anything can happen, because you're not going to get to go back and watch it. This is something that if you want to be involved in it as a viewer in any capacity, you've got to show up. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank you.
So,
cheers, man.
23rd, 24th, we've got to be there. Stu, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
It's been awesome. Thank you so much for having me on, man. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Oh, we'll do it again. We'll give you a couple weeks to rest after the charity event, but
yeah, absolutely.
So,
man. Absolutely.
But then we'll have you back on. We'll have a more casual chat. But I'm grateful to be able to help you to promote this, and thanks for being part of today's.
Any promotion is very much appreciated. And look, it's not about numbers or subscribers for me. It's about raising awareness for the charity Give Kids the World. That's the most important thing. The more it gets shared, the more views it gets, the more people engaged in it, the more it's spoken about, the better in my eyes. You don't have to be a subscriber to my channel to take part. You don't have to be a toy collector to take part. Just pop in, come and say hello, see what it's all about, and get invested and Give Kids the World. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking for anything else.
Well, and I think that if you're watching this, you'd be hard-pressed not to have a reason to go. So thanks for being part of this week's TGL, Stu, and we'll see you on the 23rd and the 24th.
Absolutely, my friend. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Cheers, brother. That was one of my favorite conversations I've ever had for this show. I loved being on Stu's show. That was a great time. And after we recorded for his show, we talked for like an hour and a half afterwards. And almost the same was true after this recording. Like, the guy is just so much fun to talk to. He likes to tell me that it's easy to talk to me. I like to tell him it's easy to talk to him. Maybe we're just a good pair. I don't know. And I don't know if we can ever make something of it, because I do love the conversations with that guy. Stu is just wonderful, and his ideas and his graciousness are nearly beyond compare. It's a good dude. And speaking of, I do want to just briefly touch on the actual charity, because we don't bring up the name so much. This is Give Kids the World. It's a really interesting charity I want to show you guys real quick. And then if you have questions about that conversation or any comments you want me to talk about, start flooding them in the chat. Give Kids the World, it's a village. So it's a physical place where sick kids and their families can go right here in the United States, in Florida. It's in Kissimmee, which is close to all kinds of cool stuff. They've been doing this since '86. So, we're coming up on 40 years of this, which is great. And they have over 188,000 families from all 50 states and 77 countries. This is international. And they basically bring kids down for a week, help them create memories, give them those things in an accessible way that they wouldn't otherwise have access to, which is really, really cool. And it started with one guy and one sick child, and to keep her memory alive, he began this charity. And they have, like I said, they have this whole village, and it's a 31 acre facility. It's crazy. And I think it's beautiful. And the idea that I get to hop on and talk stuff with my friends and hopefully generate some money for this really, really means a lot to me. And I'm so grateful that Stu is continuing to do this. And I hope that we'll continue to do this year over year. But for now, it's going to be something we have to focus on for the 23rd and 24th, so please be there. I don't yet exactly know what my slot is. Like, he's told me, but I'm just kind of like, I know that schedule will change. I'll wait, because I'm going to be there as much as I can throughout the 24 hours, because I know what he's going through with it being what it is, and I want to make sure he's taken care of. Keith says that you and I would talk about toys and music beyond for hours. I will have that conversation, and I will put it on this channel. That would be amazing. And there are some conversations that we'll have that probably will never end up on this channel. But you need to come on. We've been talking about that for 3 years now. So you heard it here first, kids. It's on record. Keith's coming on the channel this year, period. We're making that happen. And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but of course, we need to have a talk. It'd be fun. It'd be good. Everyone would love that. Okay, raise your hand if you don't want Keith on the channel. Oh, I don't see any hands. Keith, you're coming on the channel. That's it. That's all there is to it. All right? So that's it. I absolutely... and I got confirmation. It's a deal. Boom. There we go. See, making things happen on the show, proving it's live. All right? So the recorded conversation was mainly because I didn't want to do an odd live stream time. It would have been Friday afternoon at a time that isn't normal for me. I saw other live streams were being scheduled at that time. So I went ahead and had the recording, and I thought about putting it out as just a video. But then I thought it'd be really cool, because you guys have this kind of baked in, there's a community here that we have for TGL. So I thought it would make a lot of sense to do it in the middle of the show. And I know it's a little bit weird because the way we normally do the show, but I definitely want feedback from you guys on whether or not you liked this format, particularly live versus the replay. I think the replay, you're not going to be that much affected, so it is helpful for the long term. But in the short term, did you enjoy that? Is it something that was fun for you to participate in? I've no other shows that we associate with, like Largo's Lair and 1-8 Team and stuff. They've done similar things like that. So let me know if that's something you'd like to see once in a while, because there's always going to be those situations where we can't just get them on Monday, and having a live stream at an odd time doesn't always make sense. Right away, Chris is saying, great format. Cool. And we will do it again, probably. And TJC, absolutely. I would love to come on your show. You let me know. I will make myself available. There, making things happen. Gojatron says, the Keith Knight Show with special guest Redhead Jim, the night of 100 cats. Fuck that. 1,000 cats. And that's the first one. And then the next one is 10,000 cats. And then 100,000 cats. And then we end the decade with 1 million cats. I would watch that. I would. Okay, Bjorn doesn't mind the pre-recorded stuff. All right. Okay. Cool. So, obviously, we had this conversation about the display thing, which was kind of it was when I got to corner him about something he does that I don't see a lot of people doing from a content perspective. It's one thing to refresh your toy room. Everyone, I think anyone who has a big toy display, they do a refresh about once a year. You get the tour and that's it. This guy is doing it like twice a year or more, and I love it. So I thought, here's a guy who's doing it a little bit differently. Let me corner him. Let's talk about it, and then I can just make the theme of the show that I can do a great lead-in. I love the way that it worked out, and I'd like to do more of that kind of stuff. So it will definitely happen. And even just hearing back that conversation, it made me think of more things. that I need to start thinking about and making sure. I'm like, did I really think about that? Because these are, when you're going through this process, we have zero intention of selling this house we're about to buy. This is our forever home as far as we're concerned. So like, I'm putting tons of pressure on myself with it, and you'll continue to hear more about it as time goes on, because obviously it's something that's exciting. But as far as like content, I don't know how much content I can make about this until we're actually buying the place. But if I think of something cool, some different angle to approach it from, we can certainly do that. Melvor had made mention of something earlier where he likes to have a toy collection broken up and not be a background piece, where here it is quite literally a background piece unless I turn around. But that was what it was built for. In a collection room of display space, I'm going to be designing it for something you walk around and experience, and also have space to play, space to work, and everything else. That's the goal. But I think that there's all different kinds of ways for that to happen, and it is something that we continue to think about. Fenrir says, don't buy fancy shelves from Target, may look nice but way overpriced. Yeah, no, I'm a Wayfair guy at this point. Everything I've bought from him I'm pretty happy with overall, and I research stuff for months before I buy it, but thank you for telling me that. Dean's here from Thailand, if I'm not mistaken. Welcome to the show, and time zones galore. It's good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. That journey's got to be harrowing in and of itself, and I'm sure that Dean has things to say about toy display now that he's going to be in his new home shortly, if not already, and what he has to do differently from what he was doing in a really small space he was in before. So some people are like, I'm not selling my house, I have to retool this, or I have one room. Some folks are like in an apartment and they eventually want to buy a house. So I kind of feel like if you're a toy collector, this is something that always will come up, even if you're not going to be changing the space you live in. You have to change within the space you already live in, and that's always going to be something to talk about. So that's why you'll see me, I have videos on organization, and the idea that Wilhelm gave me with the tackle boxes. I have a review of a tackle box on this channel because it's a really good toy organization tool. One that I have yet to use to its full potential because I just haven't been doing it. But having those things, but at any rate, so it's a whole thing. But this is a longer than usual show. This is really all that I had for you. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't just end that conversation and go away. So Fenrir is saying that everything he got from Wayfair is broken or cheap, just bowed. Hope you don't experience what you did. So like all the shelves behind me, every last one is from Wayfair. And granted, they're industrial style shelves that are very hard to screw over. But when it comes to shelving, I'm probably going to stick with something like this that's modular that I can change as I move along, repaint, reinforce, whatever. But as far as the nice shelves, I might just have that built or build it myself, because I'm not unhandy with woodworking. I just don't have the tools and I want to build them up. So I don't know yet. I don't yet know. Knights of Old says, Jim, not as good as live, but better than a premiere. Which was kind of what I was going for, so I'm glad that you thought that. It's not what's expected, which isn't... It's not what's expected, which is... Okay. They're just playing a small segment, check interact... Okay. Okay. I think that's something we could work with. So you're saying edit the conversation into segments and go back and forth. I like that idea, and I think I might take that approach depending on how the next conversation goes. Thank you. Bjorn says, the first show I've caught in a couple weeks. That's true. It's good to see you. Ted says, great show tonight. Thank you. I appreciate that. So thank you for all the feedback. If you have more, throw it in the comments below. If you know a toy collector that's struggling with the idea of how to display stuff, or if they maybe are possibly looking at a different place to live, this might be something to show them, just to show them that we all deal with this. And we all have to mitigate these plastic masses that we have. So in the meantime, though, I hope all your card backs are straight. I hope your grinds are merry, and that you're able to find anything you're looking for at any given time at a price you feel is reasonable. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next week for TGL. For now, I'm out of here. Good night and good luck. Cheers.